Hi, my name's Elysse de Vega. I've studied over 10 languages, and you might be wondering, how expensive is it to do that? Is language learning an expensive hobby? Is it a hobby that even the most humble person could maintain? I say yes. I am of a very humble background myself. My parents were both workers. I definitely don't have a job.
They ask you how you are, you just...
And I'm still holding it down, y'all know. We pull through, we make do. You could definitely, theoretically learn a language for free, but, money is undoubtedly a catalyst in that process because it provides you with resources and opportunities like, private classes or books or applications to work with on your phone. Why did I just say applications? What is this? Apps. Language apps. Even travel, if you consider that part of the whole language learning shebang. I feel like finances and money is a taboo, well, not taboo, but it's a topic in the language learning community that's not talked about enough. People that learn languages with paid resources definitely have an advantage over people that don't. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, how much I spend on language learning every month and how much you should expect to spend based on, what you want. So let's look at my wallet. So first up is language classes. I take only virtual language classes. I don't really do any in-person courses or anything like that. Two platforms that I primarily use to do this are italki and Lingoda. I would say italki is more of the primary one just because it's you pay per lesson, no strings, whatever. So private and group language classes are consistently my biggest expense because I'm a person that prioritizes speaking. In my language learning, that's just what's most important to me, being able to communicate with people face to face. So it makes sense that that's going to rack up the biggest charge month to month. And taking language lessons is not objectively expensive or cheap. There's a ton of factors that are going to influence how much you pay. That could be the platform. So, if you're taking lessons on Lingoda, they charge a flat rate per lesson. But if you take lessons on italki, the tutors there, they make their own prices. And let's go a bit further with that. So if you take classes on italki, and since the tutors make their own prices, you're probably going to pay more for a lesson in German because that person likely lives in Germany than if the person is teaching you Brazilian Portuguese and lives in Brazil because they have to pay, different costs of living. It also depends on your intention and your approach. So, if you're being an intensive learner and take 10 lessons a month, you're going to pay less than a person that's just chilling and paying 3 or 4 lessons a month just for practice. God, my fridge is so noisy. I'm sorry. I would unplug it, but I like my juice to be cold. And of course you can practice speaking for free with a language partner or friends if you have them. I do not have any friends, so kidding. But I prefer the experience better of a language lesson because the dynamic is a lot clearer. Not to be selfish, but it's all about me and my mistakes and my questions and my concerns in the language, and I'm not constantly worrying about are we splitting the time evenly enough? Am I speaking to them too much in my native language? And when are we gonna switch to my target language? All that stuff. I just prefer the experience of working with a tutor because, also 100% of the time they're not afraid to correct you and things like that. I'm getting a bit off the rails here, but let's talk about how much I spent on online language lessons in 2021. So I went to italki and totaled up all the lessons that I took. I only took 20 lessons last year, the entire year, but it was because I was traveling a lot and I was also still in university, so So last year my total was $269 for the entire year. That's about $22 per month. But it is kind of hard to qualify a monthly rate, because the way I take lessons and the frequency that I take lessons really does vary. Back in April when I was just starting with Turkish, I was not taking speaking lessons because I didn't really think it would be fruitful at that time. I could really only say a couple of things, so why do it, But, what's the word I'm looking for? En cambio, on the other hand, this upcoming month of July, in July I'm taking a ton of lessons because I'm actually studying 3 languages in July, and those are Turkish, German, and Portuguese. I'll make a video on that, so don't worry. But money-wise, I'm planning to take 8 Turkish lessons this month for $9 each, so that's $72. 3 German lessons for $16 each, so that's $48. And 3 lessons in Brazilian Portuguese for $9 each, which makes $27. So if I add those up correctly, that makes $147 a month. Keep in mind, that is very unusual for me. I typically only take 4 to 5 speaking lessons a month, so I pretty much average anywhere from $45 to $65 a month on language lessons. And yes, I am aware that $45 to $65 is still a lot of money for people depending on, what country you live in and what currency you use, but for me as a person that lives in Indiana, my rent is very cheap, and language learning is my utmost primary hobby. So if I'm gonna spend money on something every month, I'm gonna spend money on that, It's just my priority. So that doesn't mean that it's not a priority if you don't spend that much money on it, but you know, I do like to nurture my hobbies. And if you don't want to spend any money, you can take your ass to a language exchange app. That is always an option, no shame. I really respect people that learn solely with language exchange because having to deal with like time zones constantly, I can't do it. So talking about apps. Apps can be a super useful tool for you if you just want to review on the go. Maybe you don't have enough time to sit down and like properly study, but you still want to maintain that commitment. I respect you, okay? I would say a typical range for a language learning app is anywhere from $7.99 to $13.99 a month US dollars. Depending on what they're offering, it's going to differ. But you know, if an app asks you for more than $13.99 a month, I would start to be like, "Sala verga, abuela, okay?" You know, really consider, you know, the features of an app and whether they're worth that money for you, and only give your money to apps that you really believe in, okay? Okay. So when it comes to language learning apps, there's of course free apps, like for example Duolingo, where you can use the entire app for free. It's just, you know, you can pay extra for like extra hearts in the case that you make a mistake during your lesson or something like that. And then there's freemium, which I would say this is like the most common, where you can use some features for free, but if you want like the dope stuff, the really cool stuff, you gotta pay for it. A good example of this is Closemasters. So like, you know, you can use the app for free, you can use their sets for free, but if you want to make your own sets, or if you want to use features like, you know, the slow speak or saving sentences, you gotta pay for that. And then I actually have a question, like, are there membership only apps? I assume there has to be at least some out there, you know, apps where you pay right from the start for everything. I don't use any like these, but if you guys know any that you actually like, why not leave them down below? Let me know. And like I said, you know, freemium is definitely the most common type of app because it's rare that, you know, an app is not going to ask you for any money at all these days. But it's also kind of rare that an app would ask you, you know, up front for a subscription without you being able to try out its features to see if you like them first. So that's why, you know, freemium really is the sweet spot. Honestly, it's like the most genius marketing idea ever. Next to BOGO, like, you know, you get us hooked on your little app and then you ask for the $5.99 a month. Like, what? God damn. So I'm currently only using 2 language apps, and those would be Closemaster and Buzu. I pay $8.99 a month for the former and $10.99 a month for the latter. I've actually also made videos about both of these apps, so if you want to see what they're like and see if maybe you'd like to try them for yourself, go give them a watch. They are longtime favorites of mine. Seriously, I started using Buzu when the logo looked like this, and it looked like Microsoft Paint. So back in 2013, y'all know what I'm talking about. So with these two, I'm spending $20 a month on language learning apps. But for me, it does fluctuate. Like, I'm thinking of dropping Buzu for a little bit just because I haven't been using it as much as I would like to. So that's why I don't get a yearly subscription. I just get, like, you know, month to month. If you do find a language learning app that you really do enjoy though, I would suggest getting the yearly subscription because most times you can save a lot of money that way. Like, if you pay $9 a month every month for Closemaster, you're gonna pay $108 a year. But if you get the yearly subscription, it's only $69.99. So saving almost $40 there. It can seem overwhelming to drop $70 at once on something like an application on your phone. Like, that's not even real. I could literally buy food for my whole family with $70. But, you know, like, if you're using it every day or every week, you know, constantly and getting your money's worth, I think that's worth it. So, but I am both broke and indecisive, so I will be staying with my monthly subscriptions for now. Moving on to books. Baby, this is gonna be a short section because I am not a book kind of girl. I can't read, bitch. No, I can read, but I just prefer other materials better, like audio materials, visual materials, like books. No, movies, not books. Even though books are not my favorite material, I think it's a great thing to implement into your language learning routine. You know, whether it's a textbook to show you around the language and teach you the grammar, or just like a novel to help you with your reading comprehension. Great idea. Alright, I went and got him. Remind me never to sit on the floor when I record videos again, because my knees, oh my god, they hurt. I wasn't really sure how to quantify this in my case because books are not like a monthly expense for me. It's kind of just a one-off, sporadic, every once in a while kind of thing. But I will talk about my most recent book purchase, which was, I think, the beginning of 2021. It's this Turkish für Anfänger textbook. It's a textbook in German to help me with Turkish because I thought it would be fun to try out the laddering method and try to teach myself Turkish through German. But this book cost me, I went on German Amazon to get this book, and I think it was somewhere around like 40 to 45 euros, which is, I don't know, remember, was it dollars? I'll put the screenshot on the screen, I don't remember exactly, but which I think that's a pretty typical price. That's a very reasonable price. My sister bought me this beginner's Georgian book on Amazon for like $25, so I would say like a reasonable range for language textbooks is anywhere from $25 to maybe $45 or $50. And keep in mind, you don't have to buy language books new. You can also get them secondhand. You know, German Grammar Jill, she had to make an appearance. I put this book literally in all of my videos. I would not be alive today if it were not for this book. And I got it for $8, bitch. So thrift books, thank you very much. So in closing, I only have 2 consistent like monthly expenses related to language learning every month, and those are online lessons and of course app subscriptions. And this totals from $65 to $85 a month. $65 to $85 a month is a good chunk of cash, I will say. But you know, language learning, I feel like it's just like my highest passion, my highest calling, my Anspruch, whatever you want to say. And it pays my bills because I'm a language YouTuber. So, you know, you got to put some in to get some out, I think. You don't have to spend money to be a good language learner. You don't have to spend a single cent theoretically. I know, you know, I really do like that video that I kind of made like a lifetime ago about how to learn a language completely for free. He does give a lot of good recommendations in that video. So don't let this scare you. You know, it doesn't cost that much to learn languages every month. It's just the money that I choose to pay for what I want to get out of it. I want to start doing a question of the day at the end of all my videos, or at least my sit down videos. So, question of the day: how much do you spend every month on language learning? If you're comfortable sharing that. If you're not comfortable sharing that, no issue. You can just tell me, what do you think about spending money on language learning? Do you think it's necessary? Do you think that you could reach a good level relatively quickly in a language without investing any money? Whatever you think, let me know down below. I will be responding to comments. I try to respond to every single comment. Sometimes it gets tough, but I try. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Why not? Why the hell not? Give me a reason. If you want to follow me on my social media, it's just Elysse on everything. Catch you next time, stay healthy, and see you soon.